Kamala Harris is ready to do the job. This is a leader who has spent her life fighting on behalf of people who need a voice and a chance. Somebody who was raised in the middle class, who worked a summer job at McDonald's while she earned a degree.
Allegedly. According to her, but who believes her? That's right, he's back. The spawn of Frank Marshall Davis and Barry Soetoro. You know, it's and now Led Zeppelin. Ah, yes. Barack Obama. They pulled him out of wherever he was. What was he? Paddleboarding in Martha's Vineyard, looking for friends. What's going on with that? That's what I want to know. Yeah, Barack Obama came back to campaign for Kamala Harris, but not with Kamala Harris, just for Kamala Harris. What do you think that's about? And they still think the sun rises and sets on Barack Hussein Obama, and he can slow the rise of the oceans. He has that power. He's a very powerful person. He's a Democrat. Amazing stuff. Happy Friday and welcome back once again. Really remarkable things going on. In fact, Kamala is campaigning, and the propaganda apparatus of the Democrat Party is quite remarkable indeed. In fact, the New York Post has a headline. It's just a Today headline because we only learned hours ago that Kamala Harris has already posed. She doesn't have time to do interviews or campaign events or anything. Already posed for a Vogue magazine cover because the Vogue magazine people are rushing and gushing to do a tribute. Candidate of our times. We have multiple times now. And that's the headline at Vogue magazine. The candidate actually says for our times, but there it is. The headline says of our times. But the candidate for our times, Kamala Harris, vice president. And they have a nice-looking picture of her, doubtless Annie Leibovitz, and, you know, the most expensive photographer on the planet. The fawning cover on Vogue magazine, which mostly highlights Kamala Harris's rise in politics. How did she rise in politics? Did anyone else rise during her rise in politics? Wait a minute. That is largely lacking any bombshells, is likely to be the last the magazine publishes before next month's election. And there's Kamala on the cover. It's good to be a Democrat. You know, the First Lady of the United States during the 4 years of Donald Trump, a world-renowned fashion model, never appeared on the cover of a magazine. They did hit pieces on her in the Washington Post, but never appeared. Now, Kamala Harris, the cover of Vogue magazine, because the propaganda apparatus of the left in the United States is nearly boundless. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Barack Obama out there to fluff up the Democrat Party and all of that stuff. Remarkable things going on all over the place. Barack Obama, and he's bringing out the brothers. He's talking the brothers. Racial polarization is what they're all about. They love racial polarization. Now, Obama, he's out there. He was in Pittsburgh yesterday because Pennsylvania is the key swing state. If you don't live in Pennsylvania, the Democrats really don't care about you or your vote. It's a remarkable thing. But there it is. Barack Obama campaigning for Kamala, and it's always about race.
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw.
Our neighborhoods and communities, as when I was running.
Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers.
The brothers, it appears to be more pronounced with the brothers. See, we have not yet seen the kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities, which they like to keep racially segregated, as the Democrats always have. Now it's a little bit of a twist on the old racial segregation, but the net effect is the same thing. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. I think that I'm not one of the brothers. Do you get that impression that I'm probably not one of the brothers? Barack Obama campaigning for Kamala Harris. And he went on to say, so if you don't mind for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all brothers, y'all. Now, he grew up in Hawaii and went to the Punahou School. I don't think he grew up saying y'all. They all fake everything. And say that when you have a choice that is this clean, he calls it this clean, like articulate, bright, and clean, then you have, on the one hand, you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you. Not everybody went to college, but okay. Understands the struggles and pain. They like the pain and joy that comes from those experiences. That's Barack Obama. Because the brothers, you got to have the brothers. And they brought Barack Obama out because Kamala's doing badly with black men in the vote. And they figure, well, if Barack Obama comes out, then all the black men will have to vote for her because he can slow the rise of the oceans. He is a godlike figure. He is omnipotent. And he presides over the child sacrifice in the millions. And they like that. You know, they're not big on children or anything like that. All right, let's see. Let's take a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Marco, calling from Springfield, Virginia. Marco, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. Thank you for taking my call. Hey, you were talking about an opera earlier. Well, there's a new opera that's going to be playing nationwide very soon. It's called The Messiah, also known as The Return of King Obama. So he's just stoking the flames. This guy just disappears until it's election time. Then he plays that stinking race card. I only have one question. Well, actually, I have a couple of questions for him and Queen Michelle. Is race the only thing you need to run on, or is competence? Does that count at all? And number two is, I thought the two of you were going to go back to Chicago after you left office to help those people in Chicago that are getting killed every day. But I guess you forgot about all that because you have billions of dollars now. So living the high life, so to speak. I just think it's a real shame.
Good points.
And
good
as far
points.
As the Democrats, yeah. And the Democrats, the hurricane, it's just a good crisis, not going to waste again. Remember, fracking was causing earthquakes, and, we can't have that either. So I don't know. Election season, it's insane. But the insanity is, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and getting the same result. So, go ahead, Democrats. Keep voting Democrat.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. This video of Charles Barkley reemerged the last couple of days of Barkley saying, I grew up Democrat. I've been voting for Democrats all my life. And still every Democrat-run city is broke and impoverished and crime-ridden. And they don't make anything better. Charles Barkley said this some time ago. And the video has reemerged because people should be reminded, and they're going the party of the KKK and the Confederacy are pushing hard for the black vote and for black men in particular because they have the black women locked up apparently. And, you should vote for better government and for a better country and for less crime and less poverty and fewer bad things. But the Democrat Party is good at convincing people that they should vote against their own self-interest as long as it's based on race. Right, Marco?
Exactly. It's really a shame. And this one that they've nominated this time, or that got the nomination by default, she's an absolute joke. I don't understand. How much more does it take, people? I mean, she has no skills. She has no leadership qualities. She's a joke. She can't, she hates men. She hates white people. I can go on and on. I know you only have a 3-hour show, and I appreciate your time, Chris, but I just can't believe this insanity.
Well, you raised a good question, too, about Barack and Big Mike saying they're going to go back to Chicago and make things better in Chicago. But instead, they're at their $14 million oceanfront estate in Martha's Vineyard. Well, they're building their $20 million oceanfront estate in Hawaii, and nobody's keeping tabs on that, right? because
Yeah, it's really a shame that people don't boo him when he shows up on stage. It's like, hey, where are you? We're dying over here, right? And let's not forget the billions of dollars he shipped over to Iran. We can thank him for all that's going on over there now too. Him and Dopey Joe's regime. This is just, like I said, the definition of insanity.
it certainly is. Yeah. And the Democrats, well, they've been electing these racial segregationists, the polarizers, the balkanizers, and really it was Barack Obama and the Democrat Party when Barack Obama came along that really ripped the country apart along lines of race with racial balkanization and division, because they love racial balkanization and division. They always have. They're the party of Bull Connor, Sheriff Bull Connor, and George Wallace, and the party of standing in schoolhouse doors, and they really haven't changed. Their rhetoric has changed, but if you look at their deeds and their actions and their policies, they haven't changed at all.
Yeah. Thank you. One more thing, Chris. Remember I called in a while ago and said that when Trump wins his reelection, and I do believe he will, they should cancel all the inauguration activities. Anything has to do with crowd control, because I do think that it's gotten to a point where it's too dangerous to be marching down or walking down Pennsylvania Avenue. It's, I think, just swear them in and start the healing, so to speak, because I just think that would be a very dangerous place to be. And I don't know how you can protect the president and everybody involved with that kind of crowd size. And, they get pretty darn large. You
think that? Yeah, I was at the inauguration when President Trump was sworn in last time, and I still remember the smell, like Tim Walz's wife, of the limousine behind me burning, because they burned a stretch limousine that belonged to an immigrant man, a Muslim immigrant man. It was his business. It was his $120,000 limousine, and the Democrats burned it. They were smashing out storefronts. They were attacking people going to inaugural balls. And you're right, you should expect them to be even crazier this time. Marco, we were talking about prepping for Inauguration Day and for Election Day, because the Democrat Party has proved to be prone to mob political violence, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And, we've been doing that too. But hopefully it won't come to that. But, shortages will be caused. I mean, access to stores, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty scary. And, he does have a new movie out, by the way. Let's Leave the World Behind was bad enough. But there's another movie out called Civil War. I guess it's going to be on Netflix. Right now you have to pay for it, but that's an Obama production. It's like, what are you trying to do here? It's kind of like Civil War. Is that really what we need? I thought you were a party of unity, and it looks like diversity is not our strength. Diversity is going to kill us all. It's going to destroy this country. So get it together, Democrats. Stop voting down party lines and start voting for people who can get the job done. Your mayor of Chicago is going to London to watch a football game on the taxpayer's dime, and then when he's asked about it, it's a racial issue. I thought it was a taxpayer issue, but. That's Chicago.
That's the Democrat Party everywhere you look. Really, they're disgrace to Western civilization, not just to American history. But every racial blight in the history of the United States is traceable to the Democrat Party. They don't like to bring that up on college campuses. Marco, thank you very much, buddy. Thanks for the call. You know that the best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier uses Oxy technology that helps to quickly destroy a whole lot of viruses and odors and mold and so much more, with thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet. It works like a champ. We've got 2 of them at home. Any smell will vanish after just a few seconds with the thunderstorm being on. Odors from trash cans, cigarette smoke, your mother-in-law's cooking, and even left-wing protesters are no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You know that the powerful thunderstorm sends out O3 molecules. These molecules help to seek out and destroy odors. These molecules even go behind and underneath furniture. Nothing can hide from the thunderstorm, and you don't have to buy filters over and over again and replace them and put it on your calendar and stuff. You can hold a thunderstorm right in your hand. They're just this big, and right now you can save $200. $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for a whole home protection. You're going to get 3 units for under $200, so you can put one in the basement, in your teenager's room, in your kitchen, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3 to save $200. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS and the number 3. All right. We're having kind of a Friday show here today, aren't we? Yes, we are. We still got a lot to get to. Yeah, Obama. Obama's back. He's just talking to black men, though. That's what they have him out there for. The black experience. Of course, he grew up in Hawaii and went to the Punahou School, then the Ivy League, then the Senate, and it hasn't actually been a tough row to hoe for him, has it?
There were riots. I could smell the burning tires, and I kept the windows open for as long as I could because I felt like that was such a touchstone of what was happening.
We're back. I want to get into this CBS News Ta-Nehisi Coates racist thing. They're all racist. But right now, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Glenn, calling from Arlington, Virginia. Glenn, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to make a quick point that there's a lot of things we can argue about and a lot of things that, are disputable. But there's one statistic in this whole thing that's indisputable. The truth is the Biden administration broke the border intentionally. Joe Biden broke it intentionally. Kamala Harris ignored it for 3.5 years. They all did. And we can dispute the amount of money spent and where it came from, but there's one thing that can't be disputed. 300,000 people plus died from fentanyl. That could have been stopped. It was completely preventable. So if she's not going to change anything, then I would say that we can expect 400,000 more. And that's a crime against humanity, in my opinion.
That's about the number of people that we had killed in World War II over the same period of time. About 415,000, I think, killed in World War II. And you're right, we've had, in the last 3 years, at least, more than 300,000 fatal drug overdoses, the vast majority of those caused by fentanyl. And our open border is the number one culprit, right? And you'd like to see maybe Republicans talk about that, maybe President Trump talk about that.
No, I would like to actually see why supporters of the Biden-Harris administration and the supporters of Kamala Harris justify that and not feel like they have blood on their hands.
I think they do, and they don't care about human life.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
Definitely never want a serious crisis to go to waste. To quote my high school classmate, Rahm Emanuel, not a good person, not a nice person. P. Diddy's a Democrat, isn't he? P. Diddy's definitely a Democrat. You can tell by all of the child sex offenses. That's a very clear indication. Remarkable stuff. Also, did you see that President Trump announced that his daughter Tiffany is preggers and going to have a baby, which is what happens when you're a woman and you become pregnant through the usual means, and then you have a baby. Either that, or if you're a Democrat, like Doug Emhoff, then you cough up a few $100 and you give her a ride to the building where she comes out and she's not pregnant anymore. Former President Donald Trump let slip Thursday that his youngest daughter, Tiffany, is pregnant. The 45th president, who is 78 years old, made the revelation during an aside about how Tiffany's father-in-law, businessman Masad Boulos, was in the audience and the Republican nominee's speech at the Detroit Economic Club. And hey, there's my daughter Tiffany's father-in-law there. He happens to be the father of Tiffany's husband, Michael, who is a very exceptional young guy, Trump said, and she's an exceptional young woman, and she's going to have a baby. So that's nice, he says. So that's just in the middle of the speech. It's like, oh, was I not supposed to announce that?
Tiffany's husband, Michael, who's a very exceptional young guy, and she's an exceptional young woman, and she's going to have a baby, so that's nice.
So that's nice.
Thank you for being here. Thank you very much.
I like "so that's nice." "So that's nice" is that's the good breath. That's not what Doug Emhoff said when he discovered that the nanny was pregnant. Hey, honey, talking to his wife, his then wife, his wife at the time. Hey, honey, the nanny's pregnant. Oh, wait, I guess I wasn't supposed to tell you that. Isn't that amazing? It was not publicly known that Tiffany was expecting a child. She's 30 years old. She's married to a man. They're normal. And audience members cheered at the news, which is kind of nice. President Trump already has 10 grandchildren, with sons Don Jr. and Eric, siring five kids for Don Jr. and 2 for Eric, respectively. And his daughter Ivanka has 3 kids with her husband Jared Kushner, who is the peacemaker in the Middle East. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, war makers in the Middle East, war makers in Europe. Yeah, so that was kind of fun. That was fun. Trump being Trump. Oh, yeah, by the way, my daughter Tiffany, she's preggers. Isn't that great? All right, let's go to this CBS thing, because this is pretty crazy. This whole thing is pretty wacky. CBS News, full disclosure, I grew up in a CBS News family, right? CBS News family. And they are pretty embarrassing these days. They've done a lot of really stupid things. They've got the 60 Minutes interview that they did with Kamala, and it turns out there are 2 different versions or something of that interview, that they edited out anything that might make Kamala look bad, which is not what a news organization is supposed to be doing. But that's sort of fascinating. And then we've got this moment on the CBS Morning Show, which is run by CBS News. And the CBS Morning Show, they had this, let's just say, racialist. Oh, to hell with it. Racist. They had this racist Democrat who goes by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates. And he writes books about how awful white people are. And the Jews. He hates the Jews. And he's got a new book out now, which is all about how terrible Israel is. That's where the Jews live. And these guys, they don't like the Jews, the Democrats. They should really be wearing armbands. They honestly should. Now, the Fox News channel has CBS News in turmoil as multiple controversies erupt at the network. That's one headline. The Daily Mail out of the United Kingdom, they've been doing a lot of reporting on good old Doug Emhoff, Slugger Emhoff, Secret Service code name Slugger. They might have to change his Secret Service code name now that I've revealed it so many times. Slugger. It's not really a Secret Service code name, but it should, so they won't have to change it. But CBS, shocking allegation against Gayle King as CBS Mornings in crisis mode over contentious Israel interview. Now, that's kind of an amazing story. The Washington Post, which is a phony front group for the Democrat Party, their headline is, CBS News exec says Ta-Nehisi Coates interview didn't meet standards. You got some pretty funny standards then, because this guy who did the interview is an actual journalist. Turns out he's in all these reports, he's a Jew. They want to tell you that he's Jewish, that this guy, his name is Tony. In America, we've got Jewish people named Tony. Tony Dokapil is the journalist, and I'm not familiar with him, but he was interviewing this guy, Ta-Nehisi Coates, who I am familiar with. And he's an anti-white, anti-Semite, leftist, radical extremist, and not on the side of the United States, and certainly not on the side of Israel. Now, he's got a new book out, and in the book, he questions the idea that Israel has a right to exist what with all those Jews in there and everything. So let's see, where does this begin? We'll get past the 60 Minutes thing. And this was the interview on CBS Mornings last week. Tony Dokapil talking to Ta-Nehisi Coates about his new book, which is all from the perspective of the radical Islamic jihadis of Hamas who perpetrated that mass murder, that actual attempt at genocide. While the Democrats go around chanting about genocide, they're supporting genocide. It's the old Russian playbook. Whatever they accuse you of, they're doing themselves, right? Here's Tony Dokapil on CBS Mornings last week talking to Ta-Nehisi Coates. And he asked this question. He asked a couple of questions, and it caused a panic at CBS News to the point where they had to bring in a counselor and a DEI expert, and there were people crying at the CBS meeting, according to multiple reports, and secret recordings were made from inside the DEI cry fest. It's like communist China during the Cultural Revolution. The Maoists are in charge of the Democrat Party, and that means CBS News. Tony Dokapil last week talking to Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates hates the Jews.
Ta-Nehisi, I want to dive into the Israel-Palestine section of the book. It's the largest section of the book. And I have to say, when I read the book, I imagine if I took your name out of it, took away the awards and the acclaim, took the cover off the book, the publishing house goes away, the content of that section would not be out of place in the backpack of an extremist. And so then I found myself wondering, why does Ta-Nehisi Coates, who I've known for a long time, read his work for a long time, very talented, smart guy, leave out so much? Why leave out that Israel is surrounded by countries that want to eliminate it? Why leave out that Israel deals with terror groups that want to eliminate it? Why not detail anything of the first and the second intifada, the cafe bombings, the bus bombings, the little kids blown to bits?
Terrorism.
And is it because you just don't believe that Israel, in any condition, has a right to exist?
The kidnappings, the rapes, the tortures, the terrorism, the genocidal bloodlust, which is in their charter, the call in their charter for the total extermination of the state of Israel from the river to the sea, which they're chanting on the campus of Columbia University on the anniversary of the bloodiest massacre of Jews since the end of World War II and the Holocaust. You leave all that stuff out. And Tony Dokapil, again, he's the Jew. And Ta-Nehisi Coates, you can see the wheels in his head going, Jew? 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 He's just over and over again. And here's Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's a hero of the left because he writes racist, anti-Semitic stuff, and the Democrats love racist, anti-Semitic stuff. And you say, yeah. Oh, you're right. I read it entirely from the perspective of the genocidal racists of Hamas because he spent like 10 days in a place that he calls Palestine with the terrorists, and they won him over because he wanted to be won over. He responded.
Well, I would say the perspective that you just outlined, there is no shortage of that perspective in American media. That's the first thing I would say. I am most concerned always with those who don't have a voice, with those who don't have the ability to talk.
Victim.
I have asked repeatedly in my interviews whether there is a single network, mainstream organization in America with a Palestinian-American bureau chief or correspondent who actually has a voice to articulate their part of the world.
NBC, of course, had I'm a Mujahideen, you know, and they had to pull him out of Israel because he was so anti-Israel. Yeah, Ta-Nehisi Paul Coates, raised by, I think he was raised by a Black Panther, wasn't he? His father was a member of the Black Panthers, and so naturally, because he's a radical and he says X when he means to say ask, and so and he likes to write about white supremacy and African Americans. White supremacy is everywhere, isn't it? You know, in the electricity that comes into your home, for example. And the Washington City paper is where he started, kind of like Jake Tapper, where he wrote there about his date with Monica Lewinsky. But that's not important now. So the Washington Post, he wrote for the Washington Post, and of course Oprah magazine, because you got to do that. But remarkable stuff. He Yeah, his father was a Black Panther, hero of the Black Panthers, and so he's raised by radicals, and he's a radical. And and look, there's no shortage of that perspective in other areas of the media, and that's not even false. But that doesn't mean that you open the door for yourself to just represent the jihad and the jihadis and the genocide, because But that's it. And then Tony said, well, what about this whole anti-Semite thing? Again, you sound like an extremist.
But if you were to read this book, you would be left wondering, why does any of Israel exist? What a horrific place, committing horrific acts on a daily basis. So I think the question is central and key. If Israel has a right to exist, and if your answer is no, then I guess the question becomes, why do the Palestinians have a right to exist? Why do 20 different Muslim countries have a right to exist?
My answer is that no country in this world establishes its ability to exist through rights.
Had that through rights? No country in the world establishes their ability to exist through rights? But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything at all. Okay. And it went on from there.
But you write a book that delegitimizes the pillars of Israel. It seems like an effort to topple the whole building of it. So I come back to the question, and it's what I struggled with throughout this book. What is it that so particularly offends you about the existence of a Jewish state that is a Jewish safe place, and not any of the other states out there?
There's nothing that offends me about a Jewish state. I am offended by the idea of states built on ethnocracy, no matter where they are.
Ethnocracy, built on ethnocracy, no matter where they are. Oh, is that true? It's built on ethnocracy. You realize that it's the only country in the region where Jews and Muslim Arabs live side by side, where there are Muslim Arabs in the political apparatus of the Israeli government and the Knesset, which is their Congress, where they have the same rights as, everybody has the same rights in Israel, where gay people are not thrown off of rooftops like they are in the Gaza. Pretty remarkable stuff, I got to say. Now, let's jump ahead to Douglas Murray, because Douglas Murray, and my best girl was watching this today, said, oh, check this guy out. Douglas Murray is a British journalist and author, and he was on the television this morning, and he was asked about Ta-Nehisi Coates. What do you think about this back and forth going on at CBS? And again, CBS had to bring in therapists to try to calm down their employees. Here is Douglas Murray, a British journalist, author, a scholarly fellow.
Ta-Nehisi Coates has written one of the most racist books of our era. He's an utter ignoramus, wildly overpraised. He went to what he calls Palestine, which was a literary festival in the West Bank, for 10 days. And for 10 days, with his unbelievable ignorance, he looks at everything through the prism of his own navel. For 10 days, he has the audacity to think that he understands the region.
Yeah, because, he spent 10 days there. Now he's an expert and a scholar on the subject. And he went to Howard University in Washington, D.C., a historically black college and university, where, interestingly, Kamala Harris went, and Douglas Murray.
It is disgraceful what this man has got away with. And watching most of the American media fawn on him for years has been appalling. But now somebody has the audacity to ask a couple of critical questions of St. Ta-Nehisi, and the network goes into meltdown. He deserves far more questioning than this. He's produced a racist diatribe, and it's the shame of the network that they think it was terrible to even question him about it.
Yeah, how dare you even raise a question about his book, which essentially makes the case against Israel that it doesn't have a right to exist. Now, and look, that's fine. He can write that book. Nazis write those books, and he writes that book. But when you do it in the name of liberalism, then it's blessed by the Democrat Party and beyond, right? Because that's okay with them. He should be wearing an armband. He's a radical, he's an extremist, he's an anti-Semite. He believes that a country doesn't have the right to exist, a country that is the target of genocidal madmen. And he has saddled up with the genocidal madmen, which, again, he's welcome to do. I'll defend his right to say that. He's got a right to be wrong. But then CBS News goes into shelter-in-place mode, and they curl up on their yoga mats and cry and bring in mental health counselors and DEI experts to try to talk them off of this insane ledge, that means you're really not a news organization. These are perfectly legitimate questions to ask him, even though he's entitled to be a Nazi if he wants to. The journalist, Tony, is entitled to ask him whatever questions, but at CBS News, well, not everyone agrees with this whole free speech idea at CBS News.
The content of that section would not be out of place in the backpack of an extremist.
Now, Ta-Nehisi Coates his name is spelled Ta-Nehisi, but they pronounce it Ta-Nehisi. And nobody knows why. Probably white supremacy, I'm not sure. But he went and did a podcast to talk about this just a couple of days ago because he's the victim now, and CBS is the bad guy for asking a question because journalism has been murdered. And here he is explaining that if he was a Palestinian, he's not sure he could have resisted joining in the massacre on October 7th last year. The rapes, the kidnappings, the dismemberment. He's not sure he could have resisted.
And I haven't said this out loud, but I think about it a lot.
He hasn't said it out loud.
Were I 20 years old, born into Gaza, which is a giant open-air jail. And what I mean by that is if my father is a fisherman and he goes too far out into the sea, he might get shot by somebody off of, the side of Israeli boats. If my mother picks the olive trees and she gets too close to the walls, she might be shot.
Not what happens.
If my little sister has, cancer and she needs treatment because there are no, facilities to do that in Gaza.
That's a lie.
I don't get the right permit, she might die.
That's a
lie. And I grow up under that oppression and that poverty, and the wall comes down. Am I also strong enough or even constructed in such a way where I say, this is too far?
Yeah, I
don't know that I am.
He'd be on the side of the Hamas massacring the Jews, is what he said there. Isn't that amazing? By the way, listen, have a great weekend, a great, great American weekend.